Connor Murphy did not just hit the whoa.
No, because all Dear Evan Hansen's about is another sad white boy who manipulates his way into a vulnerable family that he always wanted and sleeps with a dead kid's sister. Waving through a window, I try to speak, but no.
The outside, always looking in, will I?
Dear Evan Hansen, today is going to be an amazing day, and here's why.
You are 17, going on 18.
Actually, I'm 33.
Wait, what?
If I stop smoking pot, then everything might be alright. I'll take your advice, I'll try to be more nice.
Call the police. We need to call the police.
So in honor of Dear Evan Hansen coming in at 47% on Rotten Tomatoes, and by request of like 2 people in my comment section, here's a list of very weird things said by the cast and creative team of Dear Evan Hansen in this Hollywood Reporter interview. So before we even get to the interview, the article begins by characterizing the film as an extremely impressive adaptation, and by dismissing anyone who observed that Ben Platt looks older than 17 as Twitter trolls, so we're off to an unbiased start. And then we have this lovely quote from Justin Paul: "Broadway is for a certain group of folks." Who's it for, Justin? So if we're being generous, we could interpret this as a criticism of the fact that Broadway audiences are overwhelmingly rich and 74% white as of the 2018-2019 season. But even then, Paul fails to acknowledge that he and the people he works for and with actively perpetuate the exclusivity of Broadway, and as a casual statement, this is downright icky. So I touched on this in previous videos, but the way that Justin Paul, Ben Platt, and librettist/screenwriter Stephen Levinson talk about the character Alana, which keep in mind is the only character consistently played by an actor of color. Here's Justin Paul saying they hadn't really gotten to write material for her on the stage. Stephen Levinson worried we don't spend enough time with Alana. And here's Ben Platt describing her as the character with the most room for improvement. All of which, again, I have no patience for because it's their show, so I'm not sure whose fault they think this is. And then we find out that Amandla Stenberg, who plays Alana in the film, didn't actually audition for the role. Instead, Pasek and Paul recommended Amandla to the director Stephen Chbosky, who then met with her over Zoom and offered her the role on the spot. I just want to point this out because, like I said, Alana is the only character consistently played by an actor of color in a show with a years-long history of casting actors of color only as swings and understudies, with the exception of Jordan Fisher as Evan. And at least according to this interview, it really sounds like they continued that pattern of casting discrimination by failing to hold full auditions for Alana, as they did for other characters, apparently. Furthermore, Chbosky sought to surround Ben Platt with as many movie people as possible, apparently to ease his translation of the role from stage to screen, which is frankly insulting to both Ben's long and prolific screen career and to the original Broadway cast, who I'm sure would have been more than capable of reprising their roles on screen. On the subject of casting, they apparently built the entire cast around the idea that Ben Platt would be in his 20s and playing high school age, which is ironic because that is the thing for which the film has received the most criticism so far, and they also hired movie actors because they wanted it to be commercially viable. But according to Ben's father and producer Mark Platt, they apparently paid those same actors less than they would normally make, so how's that for commercial viability? You can pause to read this one. It's okay, Mark. You can say nepotism. And finally, this one is not super relevant, but I just have to throw it in here from Justin Paul again. The world of Greatest Showman and the world of Evan Hansen couldn't be more different. Wrong! They're both supervillain origin stories. This is also a shameless plug for my still unwritten explanation of why The Greatest Showman is a crime against humanity, which is coming just as soon as I can force myself to watch it again. Finally, and here's a shout out to the DEH stands who keep reporting my videos for harassment and bullying, Stephen Chbosky told us to go into the movie with all the snark in the world, so don't mind if I do.
This is just your daily reminder that Ben Platt is 27 years old. And he's supposed to be playing a high schooler. But they somehow managed to not make him look like a 27-year-old playing a high schooler, but more like a solid 35-year-old playing a high schooler. Like they purposely tried to make him look older to look younger.
Alrighty, let's try this one more time. The reviews for the Dear Evan Hansen movie are coming in, and they are largely negative. Many of the reviews are calling the film a total mess, a misfire, one of the worst movie musicals ever made. And yes, many of them point out that Ben Platt is too old to play a high school student. I made a TikTok addressing some of these issues, and the comment section just devolved into a battlefield of people calling each other names and fighting over things. And I didn't like the negativity, so I deleted the TikTok, even though it was doing extremely well. And now I would like to calmly remake my point about why Dear Evan Hansen doesn't work, and start a friendly conversation in the comment section. To start out, I do not think Ben Platt's age is the reason why this movie doesn't work. He is extremely talented, no one's trying to take that away from him, but for many people, he is too old to be playing this part. I'm aware that a lot of high school movies cast actors that are too old for their parts. But the fact of the matter is, Ben Platt's father, Mark Platt, purchased the film rights for Dear Evan Hansen so that his son could play the role before he aged out of it. So literally speaking, the film would not have been made without his familial connections. That is the definition of nepotism. Now, there's nepotism all over Hollywood. I'm not saying that's the worst thing in the world. But the arrogance of Ben Platt's response to this valid criticism of nepotism is what makes it even worse. He even says it himself, were it not for him and his family, the movie wouldn't have been made. He even says he wants to just go on Twitter and tell everyone to, quote, F off. He's had this attitude for a while now, even before Dear Evan Hansen, and it always surprises me how people jump to defend him, even though he is an extremely wealthy, successful, talented actor with very powerful family members. And not that it takes away from his talent, but his father has been a producer on almost every single project he's ever been on. But again, I don't think that's why this movie isn't doing well. The problem with Dear Evan Hansen is the character of Evan Hansen. They want you to sympathize with him, but at the end of the day, he is a villain, not an underdog. In both the movie and the musical, they use his social anxiety and his feelings of being an outcast as a reason to excuse the horrible things he does to the people around him. In my opinion, the musical does a decent enough job of presenting him as not really a hero, but at the end of the day, I had issues with the musical when I saw it. I thought its depictions of anxiety and mental illness were borderline offensive. But the movie makes this problem even worse. It's being marketed as a movie for the outcasts. But the story wants you to believe that he's the good guy, and they want you to root for him in the end. It's not a redemption arc unless the person who made mistakes does things to make those mistakes better. Evan Hansen doesn't do that. He just says sorry and cries and sings a sad song. And in my opinion, that's why Dear Evan Hansen has never really worked for everyone who watched it.
Well, my mom always says it's better to be rich than poor, so.
Yeah, well, your mom's probably never been rich then.
Yeah, you've probably never been poor. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. I'm so sorry.
Wow. I didn't realize you were capable of saying something that wasn't nice.
I'm not. I'm really sorry.
You really don't have to keep saying that.
Okay.
You want to say it again?
Yeah, very much so, I do.
Man, kindergarten's gonna be crazy. I can't believe it's our first day of kindergarten already, friends. 1 + 1? I'm only 4. Twinkle, twinkle. May I please go potty? I'm about to make poo-poo in my pants. What did your mommy pack you for lunch? That's cool. My mommy packed me her special spaghetti. I was playing with that car. You're a little slut. Kindergarten really flew by, huh, guys? I can't believe we're going all the way up to 1st grade.
Okay, so I'm seeing this comment a lot, and I know it's all jokes about how Steven Chbosky doesn't know how to light a movie, but there's an opportunity here, and I'm going to take it to talk about Dear Evan Hansen and racism. For context, Dear Evan Hansen's plot can be summarized as a kid, Connor, dies of suicide, and another kid at his school, a social outcast named Evan, shamelessly exploits his death for social clout, college application material, and the opportunity to bang Connor's sister. And he gets away with all of it. The original Broadway cast is all white with the exception of Crystalline Lloyd, who plays Alana Beck, and in the original readings of the show, Alana was played by white actresses. From what I remember of the bootleg I watched years ago, the script includes zero regard for Alana's racial identity or for that of the actress playing her. Evan and his friend Jared rope Alana into an elaborate con when they create the Connor Project, an anti-suicide campaign predicated on the lie that Evan and Connor were friends. Alana is completely unaware that this is a lie. And of the three of them, she arguably has the most to lose, although we get very little in the way of character development. This is a Pasek and Paul show, after all. We know that academics are important to her and that the Connor Project, aside from being something that she really believes in and that helps her with her own mental health struggle, is a really important addition to her resume. So what we have is two white men, Evan and Jared, completely conning a black woman, Alana, using her for her intelligence and threatening her academic career in the process. And we have a group of writers who implicitly condone their actions by letting them get away with it. And just as the story screws over its only black character, the creators in real life have done the same to the very few people of color they've hired. On the stage, they have a history of casting actors of color in this show as swings and understudies, and very rarely as principals. Let's talk about the movie. For this next part, I'm going to discuss an incident that was documented in social media posts by Crystalline Lloyd and Alex Thomas Smith, who understudied Evan and Jared in the London cast. And I'm going to mostly repeat what they chose to share without speculating too much about what happened, since this isn't really public knowledge. When it came time to adapt the show for film, the movie's creative team invited people of color who had been involved in Dear Evan Hansen in the past to a meeting. Only 10 people were present at that meeting, all of whom were black and all of whom were actors, so none of them were executives or creators or anyone with creative say in the show. They were asked to share their experiences of racism and trauma in the show, and from what these actors have shared, it sounds like their input was subsequently ignored. So the creative team exploited them for their emotional labor and then disregarded their contributions, kind of like exactly what Evan and Jared do to Alana in the show. But what do we expect from a movie created, directed, produced by, and starring white men? Musical theater is a form that emerged directly from a long and horrifying history of blackface minstrelsy in popular American entertainment, which is why I can't take comments like this lightly. Modern musical theater creators tend to ignore this or even continue the tradition. So, in conclusion, Ben Platt looking older than 17 is really the least of Dear Evan Hansen's problems.
How old are you?
17.
How long have you been 17?
A while.
And Dea were placed up in this like really high tree that we had to be basically like lifted up into, and we were up there for hours and hours, and we really had to pee, but we didn't want to like stop Beyonce's production by like
my God.
asking to be lifted down from the tree, so we ended up just being up there like holding it the whole time and being like, for Beyonce.
Dear Evan Hansen movie was a mess, and this time I'm talking about it with spoilers, so if you don't want those, watch my spoiler-free video. Okay, now let's spill the tea. You've heard my thoughts about the acting and the adaptation and blah blah blah. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. First of all, when Evan and Zoe were singing Face to Face, Only Us, that was the one time where I was like, this feels inappropriate, Evan is too old. Next, so there was a moment that really stuck with me. Even though the entire audience was laughing like the whole movie, the longest period of silence was So Big, So Small. Great song, she did so good, and then the end ruined it. They go in to hug at the end, and everyone gasped because it looked like they were going to kiss. We were like, no, Evan, I know you're the same age as your mom, but don't kiss her. Sincerely Me was a mess too. It started out okay, and I like Colton Ryan personally, but with the way it was staged and filmed, it felt like a high school attempt at a music video. It was not the best. Oh, and plot-wise, it was pretty much the same overall, except, you know, the Alana storyline is different, and she has a song now and stuff. You know, the climax with the parents offering him the money, and his mom getting all angry, and they have that fight. We get all of that. One thing though that I couldn't remember if it was in the show was that after words fail, Evan was like, Zoe, why hasn't your family put out there that I lied about everything? She answers that they didn't want him to get so cyberbullied that he would unalive himself, so they're keeping it a secret. Which makes a lot of sense, but can somebody tell me, was that in the stage show? But hold on, let me tell you about my favorite part of the movie. They changed the ending. There's a new song, it's non-diegetic, and during that song there's a montage of Evan doing everything he can to learn about Connor. For real this time, he reads all of Connor's favorite books. He reaches out to everyone who might have possibly known him and has conversations with them. He connects with someone who is in one of Connor's recovery programs, and they give him a video of Connor singing a song that he wrote. For context, earlier in the movie, Connor's mom says that Connor knew how to play the guitar and he wrote music, but he would never show any of them any of his work. Evan puts the video on some USB drives and sends them out to a few of the people who he hurt so that they could actually have something that would help them get to know who Connor was. Obviously, that doesn't fix the pain he caused, but it shows that Evan actually learned from his mistakes and tried to do a little better. I also made another video on that, which you should check out. It's about whether or not Evan got proper repercussions for his actions. So yeah, that's all I got. You're free to ask me questions in the comments since this is a spoiler review. If you somehow saw the movie already, what did you think of it?
Okay, I don't know if it's the old age makeup or the camera angle, but I never realized before that the bridge of this song sounds like a guy who murdered somebody in a forest and is worried about covering it up. It's okay, they won't arrest you, Ben. Your dad's a producer.
Ben, because I'm tapping on the glass. Wow!
I apologize for the person I will become when this movie comes out in September. I will be obsessed. I will watch it 800 million times. And before anybody says, oh, Ben is too old to play Evan Hansen, man, I really wish I cared. But no, I do not. I've listened to the soundtrack so many times that Ben's voice and just like Ben himself is so synonymous with Evan Hansen in my head that any other actor playing him in the movie and like singing the songs in the movie would just seem wrong to me. And like, I wouldn't want to watch it as much. Even though I've literally seen it on stage with another actor and I loved it. But like, just for the movie, like I need Ben. Like, this is gonna be so good. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Also, when I met Pasek and Paul and I asked them like how they created the characters, they literally created the characters around the actors that they had, and they created Evan around Ben. So like, just in my personal opinion, nobody can play this part better than Ben can. So he's gonna be so good in the movie. I'm really, oh my God.
Dude, what's this 30-year-old doing in our school? I don't know, man. Stay away from him, though. He might be homeless. Mr. Platt, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been?
Oh, they had options for who to play Evan Hansen in the movie. 19-year-old Andrew Feldman is currently playing him. But there's one thing that Andrew lacked that Ben had. A father named Mark, who is producing the movie Dear Evan Hansen.
He is a grown-ass man now. Why is he in this movie?
I'm in bed because y'all got mother pressed. Now, no shade to this one, but a little shade. I'm going to do a little shade. It is rare for an actor to originate their role on Broadway and in a movie. Let's be real on that. The last time I saw that shit was in Rent. And let me be real with everybody. I do not fucking like Dear Evan Hansen. I've always made that sure. It seems like a pick-me-ass bitch show. I have my own feelings about it. However, Ben Platt is amazing. Ben Platt is daddy. Ben Platt deserves to originate his role on Broadway and in the movie. And let me tell you something. If you originated a role on Broadway, you would want to originate the role in the movie if they were making a movie adaptation. Shit. Get off his nuts. He making a dough, you being a hoe. Bye.